One stage left before the end game. Both the text after clearing Occupy Factory and the text when selecting Defend Factory are really short, so be careful with your mashing. We've got one last use for the Buster. So in this stage, the boss fight is right at the beginning, so there's not really many opportunities for RNG manipulation. But if you fire a shot to the left at the start, you can't really see a wall there, but your shots will hit something, and you can change the RNG. So we're going to fire one shot, and then go to Phantom, and then switch to Sword and Shield for the rest of the run. It is possible to go too fast after firing the shot, and it won't register, so careful about that. Phantom's a pretty tricky fight to get optimal. So, at the start of the fight, he's going to dash towards us. We're going to jump on the far side, then move close to him and start attacking. You need to be really close because once you hit him, he gets pushed back, and otherwise he wouldn't still be in range after that if you were too far away. So it's pretty tricky to get the spacing right. Normally you'll either bump into Phantom and get damaged, or be too far away and he'll be out of range after you hit him. Then he's going to jump up to the right. We'll follow him. You could do a dash jump here, but in my experience I normally overshoot it, and since you have to wait for him to jump anyway, you can get here in time just by walking, pretty much. You might be able to save a little bit of time, but I don't think you'd be able to get an extra hit in, so it wouldn't matter. And again, we want to be really close to him, this time because we're going to be knocked back. The visual cue I use is having my front foot a bit in front of that square on the ground. After you get hit, you can just keep attacking him for a while. Even as he starts to ride this shuriken, keep attacking, since the way your hitbox works, you can still get him once more, even when he's above and to the left of you. And then jump up and hit him with a jump slash. The iframes don't matter since we need to wait for him to fly around anyway. Then we're going to move over here to the left. We want to be on this side so that after he drops down, he will go to the right, which is a good place to end the battle because that's where we're going afterwards. So you can get 4 hits on him before he gets away here. Relatively tight timing on that. Follow him with a dash jump since we've got a lot further to go this time. And then just end it. If you're a bit behind on damage at this point, he might be able to throw another shuriken before you kill him. If that's going to happen, I would recommend jumping over it, because health is a valuable resource in this stage. Taking 8 points of damage in the battle was a bit more than we'd like. It wouldn't necessarily be catastrophic, but I recommend against it. Make sure to grab this Cyber Elf, or else you'll end up with different RNG values. We've already fought the boss, so we don't have much more to manipulate in this stage, but the robot dogs coming up will either jump or run along the ground based on the value, and it's nice to know which it'll be. So yeah, just buffer a dash out of this cutscene, and then Seal talks to you for a bit here. I like to jump into the trigger, just so I can start mashing before I hit it. You don't want to start mashing while you're still on the ground, or else you'll do silly stuff like jump or attack. But once you're already dashing in the air, you can start mashing without anything wacky happening. I normally jump over this thing entirely, but you can move on here however you want. So that one will run along the ground, this one will jump at you, this one will go on the ground. He's the trickiest to jump over. It'll take some practice. Sometimes you'll get damaged forwards by him. Other times you'll catch that corner. It is possible to fit through just right though, and have neither of those things happen. So here's how I approach this section. So jump over this guy, get onto this little indent sticking out, and then just dash off of it. That'll get you underneath this jumping one. Then I like to do a short hop. It is possible to do a really long dash from here and make it far enough forward to get over the next dog optimally, but in my experience that's more trouble than it's worth, since it's like right at the end of your dash. So I just do a quick jump here, then dash along the ground until as I'm hitting this square or so. You also need to time how long you hold the jump button here relatively precisely, because if you hold the jump too long, you're going to catch that corner. If you go too far forward and the dog starts attacking you, you'll have to mash buttons to get out. And then here we've got a choice to make. You can take the upper or the lower route through the factory. The upper route is a lot more difficult to do optimally, and it only saves like 3/4 of a second, I think, with perfect execution. Most of the time it'll save a lot less than that, if anything. So I don't highly recommend it unless you're really trying to save frames. You have to be pretty far to the right on that little platform in order to make this jump. It's possible to get onto this ledge with just a single wall jump here, but in my experience it almost always takes two. These walls are kind of deceptive. You can see the spark there where I'm kicking off the wall. That's like around where the wall actually is, but visually it extends a lot further than that. So telling like when to wall jump off of it is kind of tricky, and it's even worse for the coming corner jump. So here's a bit of a trick. After you get this health, we want to dash into this wall, but not press any directional buttons. So just hold dash until you're up against the wall. And because of the widened hitbox while dashing, this will leave you several pixels away from where the wall actually is, which is useful for this upcoming corner jump, because we want to be as far from this wall as possible when we jump off of it in order to make this possible. So after I dash into the wall and get in the right position, I just jump straight up from there. At the peak of my jump, I do a wall jump to the left, and then as you're going past this corner, you want to stop and wall jump off of it. I mentioned the deceptive appearance of these walls. It's really kind of a problem when going for this corner jump. You'll have to practice it quite a bit to get a feel for it, since just relying on the visual of where the wall is, not too good. There are some other corner jumps in the run during the Neo Arcadia Tower, which are, as far as I can tell, identical in execution, but they don't have that same problem with the walls looking weird, so you might want to learn those first. They also save a lot more time than this one. So once we get up to around here or so, stop moving, release and repress A to get the wall jump, and you're up. Normally you would do a dash wall jump in a situation like this where you're about to go over an edge, but since that helicopter guy's right there, we don't want to hit him, so you just do a regular wall jump. And then just hit this thing 4 times to get in. and you get a little more dialogue from Seal. There's a really interesting way we can destroy these fans with the saber that wasn't available to us when we went through here in Occupy Factory, since we only had the triple rod then. So, let's see. Similar to the idea of spinning, if you hit an enemy with first the hitbox of a regular jump slash, and then you spend at least one frame not hitting them with anything, you'll be able to hit them again with the hitbox of the extended jump slash afterwards, since the extended jump slash is a fair amount thinner than the regular jump slash hitbox. So you can get 2 hits on without stopping or turning around or anything. This first one's relatively easy to set up, since the dialogue by Seal leaves us in exactly the perfect position. So you can just buffer, dash, jump, right, down, and attack. Which is kind of a mouthful, but isn't too difficult to pull off. Getting the double hits on the other 2 fans is a bit trickier. First one you can just buffer it, but for the other 2 you gotta time it. And by my measure it's 2 frames, so not easy. The cue I use for this one is when I'm like lined up with that extra life on the ground. You can see this is the first frame where I started attacking. I jump a little earlier than that though, when I'm like going over the energy crystal. Timing the 2 independently is kind of inconvenient. For this one, I do the attack and the jump simultaneously. Well, almost simultaneously apparently. Around here, which, I mean, it's kind of a pain since the exploding debris of the previous fan is like on top of 0 while you're timing it. So, do the best you can. It's kind of lined up with that section in the background. You could also reference from a certain distance to that Cyber Elf container. And then for this wall, it's just 4 hits again to get through. The lemon that this guy shoots is kind of an oddball. Depending on how exactly you've moved through the area, it can be in a variety of places. In this case, it's low enough that it won't be in my way. You'll see I'm holding the shield out just in case though, because sometimes it will be high enough that you can reflect it with the shield. And then in other situations it's in a really inconvenient spot where it'll just hit you. You can't reflect it because it's too low, but you won't go over it either. You might be able to do like a really tiny hop after destroying that wall, but anytime I've tried it, I always caught that corner next to the turret, so I normally just go with the dash and pray strategy. If you execute all of this perfectly, like I said, it saves something like 3/4 of a second compared to going the lower route, which is way easier. If you only go for the double hit on this first fan and just do regular left and right spinning for 2 hits on these guys, you would probably save more like 1/4 of a second, I would estimate, with good execution, and it'd be a lot easier. So that might not be a bad idea, because if you mess this up, you just jump directly into the fan and get hit, so that costs a lot of time. Then a little bit more dialogue here. after we clear it, I try and knock down this bomb as I'm going, but I don't need to pick it up right now. There are more important things to do, namely getting this elevator started. Since we're going to have to wait for it anyways, we can just go back and pick up the bomb afterwards. If you miss the bomb on the way through the first time, don't worry about it. Still focus on hitting the elevator button as soon as possible. And then we just dash off as soon as we can, get this bomb, go over here. You need to stop moving left for a little bit, or else you'll hit that ledge that's sticking out and slide down it, which isn't a huge deal, it'll just slow you down a little. And then we get over here and this platform will be available. Yeah, note how I just fall straight down for like 4 or 5 frames there, and then start moving forward again. Let's suppose you want to go the lower route, which honestly is what I would recommend when you're starting to learn. So you get the dialogue triggered here as you're going through the door. Again, I prefer to jump into it so I can start mashing early. And then there's nothing really to it. It's just get used to the terrain and where the enemies are. I normally go pretty far forward here and then just hold my shield out as I jump, so I don't have to worry about that lemon. That way I always make it onto here. You can just jump over the lemon entirely, but it will make it kind of tight landing here. This jump's also a little bit tricky, just because you gotta get pretty close to this guy in order to avoid catching the corner there, but it's not too bad. And reflect that, and that. Really simple stuff compared to the upper route. Here's what I mentioned about missing the bomb. So if that happens, again, just go for the elevator button. That's way more important. Get the bomb and you can still basically make it right on time. This section can be pretty scary when you're first starting out. It's not actually that bad though. I mean, you definitely can take a death here if you're careless or you make a small mistake, but there's nothing in this section that's actually really challenging. This thing normally won't even be in your way. It can only hurt you while it's got the spark out on the front. The visual cues I use are generally based on the platform itself. When it reaches a certain point, that's when I dash off the edge or do whatever else. So generally as it's going between this red triangle, the one at the front of the platform, and the one after that, I'll go over the edge. You'll see me do a trick here where I start a spin slash and then jump off the platform moments before it destroys it. This doesn't accomplish anything practical other than getting you like 1 saber experience point, and it will even cost you 4 frames of hit lag, but it's so stylish that it's totally worth it. It's a 2-frame window to get that, and if you're too late, you will destroy the platform before jumping off of it, resulting in immediate death. So I like to call them the suicide jumps. I don't really recommend them, but if you do go for it in a run, you are a true hero. Then, as soon as we land on this one, dash immediately, get as far forward as you can, and do a full jump. This lightning guy won't be in the way at all, and you'll be able to just barely make it onto this platform. That's probably the trickiest part of the whole segment. And then you can just go up, kill that bat, knock over this bomb, and be ready to grab it. once the platform moves up. I go pretty early when I jump over here. You could wait longer if you like. After that, I just hit this corner, slide down a bit, and puts me right on top of the platform. And you're not falling very fast because you went from sliding on the wall, so you can see where the platform is underneath you and adjust if you need to. Now we've got another opportunity for a suicide jump here. Right as it's getting to this particular red triangle, it's around when I go over the edge. And then I just start a second spin slash by pressing B again as I'm doing the wall jump off to kill those bats as I go through. There are probably much safer ways of approaching this. And I like to go forward and kill this bat ahead of time. That way it doesn't get in the way when I'm coming down after grabbing this bomb. So kill all the bats, kill this, and then just do a regular dash off this ledge, and you should land right in the center. Do have to dodge this guy. And then we gotta go up here. You want to be certain your movement is relatively consistent up here. That way you'll know where the platforms are underneath you. We also want to grab this health if we're not at full. If you are at full health, I would still recommend grabbing the health just to set up the timing right. Because if you go too fast, you can actually fall in front of the next platform. So drop down. The next one should be right there. Now, here's the next trickiest spot, at least if you want to really cut it close. So, as the platform's reaching that vertical bar in the background, go over the edge, and you can't do a suicide jump here if you're timing it like this, because we need to jump from relatively high up on the platform. Do need to kill that bat with the spin, and you'll be able to just barely catch the edge of this one. If you're not completely comfortable with it, just wait longer on this first platform before going over the edge, and it'll be a lot safer. Let's watch the whole segment real quick. Nothing to it. Here's some slightly different ways of approaching it. So if you don't even want to wall jump off the side of these platforms at all, because you're feeling super lame, you don't actually have to. You can just do a regular dash jump off this thing, and you can even go a bit earlier than when you're doing the wall jump, which wouldn't save time, by the way, since all these platforms are on a cycle. But just for the sake of knowing when to actually go for it, it's a little earlier. Don't mind me going off the edge there. That was just because I don't know how to do it like this. And then you have to wait quite a while here, or else you'll catch that corner when you jump over here. Honestly, I'm not even sure that's easier than going off the side, but maybe you will find it to be so. And then that's all the same, just dash off the ledge up there. And I mentioned how you can just wait longer on here if you want to be safe. So if you wait till around here before going over the edge, it's really easy to hit the side of this platform. Be careful when you're going for this not to wall jump too high on the side of this platform, because if you do, you will hit that little pillar hanging down that I'm underneath. Yeah, it's up to you how you want to approach it. Like I said, everything's on a fixed cycle, so as long as you're on the right platforms at the right time, you're not really losing anything. We've got to wait for this lightning bar. It's not faster to damage boost off it. You also have to wait for that one, but not for very long. Now, with a good full jump here, and then a full wall jump, you can make it on top of this ledge with just one wall kick. And if you do that, you can catch this lightning bar in time for a damage boost. That'll save you some time, since it gets you past this one. Then another boost here, and then dash through this next one so your hitbox is wide enough that you will get hit as you go through. If your movement's really smooth, you can actually get by without getting hit here, which is actually less than ideal, since you would then get boosted backwards instead of forwards when you go through this next lightning bar. But that's only a tiny difference in time. And then here there's nothing too crazy. Just control how high you're jumping in order to avoid hitting the bats. Or just attack the bats as you go through. It's not a big deal. And then here's the last bomb. If you're slow here, like if you have to wall jump twice, it's better not to take a damage boost. I'll show that now. So if you don't quite get enough height, just do another wall jump, get the bomb. You won't be able to catch the damage boost there, since the lightning bar will be gone. And if that happens, wait for this next one, since it's not generally faster to do a damage boost if it'll only get you past one bar. So I just kind of go slow here, and then once it's out of my way, get through. And here's what I was talking about. If your movement's good enough, you'll get past that, and then just get boosted by the other one. Not a huge deal. .111 is my best for this stage, but with the relatively new tech of the upper route and fighting Phantom a little better, I think 110 should be possible.